What's up everybody, my name is Cal, and today I'm going to review Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Directed by Destin Daniel Cretton, this takes place in present-day post-Endgame era where we follow Shang-Chi, a martial artist and valet driver who must confront the past he left behind when he's drawn into the web of the mysterious Ten Rings organization. Shang-Chi, played by Simu Liu. Yeah, this role was definitely made for him. It was always meant for him. He really showed he was the heart of his own film. The compassion, determination and strength were all emotions perfectly demonstrated by his excellent performance. Yes, I would have to admit, in comparison to the other MCU films, as the character lead, his performance might not have been as strong in comparison to, say, Chadwick Boseman or Benedict Cumberbatch, but still, I found him to be a pretty likeable character, an understood individual who wanted to run from his past and the traumas that came with it. Simu Liu also learnt martial arts for this film. That shows dedication to the role, and it makes him more of an actor people grow to love in his career in the MCU. I think Simu Liu is definitely at home with the MCU, and someone I hope grows more into the role of Shang-Chi. Wenwu, played by Tony Leung. Man, his character was solid. I have to admit that I'm not familiar with his previous work, but I know he is a big deal, and his role as Wenwu, as Shang-Chi's father, was brilliant. Wenwu's character arc really shifts throughout this film. A villainous, greedy individual who falls in love and becomes a caring person, to then becoming a bitter, grief-stricken man as his love is sadly taken away from him. His character is arguably one that we can sadly relate to in certain aspects, but his performance makes him so believable, and you can see the pain this character endures mentally as well as physically. The relationship he has with Shang-Chi is very reminiscent of that of Peter Quill and Ego's father and son relationship, minus the whole being a planet/god thing and killing the mother, but yeah, similar traits. It certainly does help create the tension felt in the final fight sequence between these two characters. Xinling, played by Meng'er Zhang, she was really underrated in this film, but her role doesn't go unnoticed. In many ways, Xinling is the mere shadow of her brother, but arguably is the better fighter. You sympathise for her character. She's often abandoned and left to fend for herself. It's a shame that her parents didn't value or pay attention to her as much as her brother. This is sadly something represented in reality within Asian communities. The end credit scene revealed her to have taken over the Ten Rings rather than destroy it, and I'm intrigued to see what she does with it, now becoming an anti-hero or what seems more likely, a villain. Favourite sequences? The bus fight scene. I think a lot of people can agree that the bus sequence in San Francisco was excellent to watch. The whole sequence was perfect. We got a balance of hardcore fighting, a dangerous tense situation with the bus having no brakes, and comedy which came from Katie, played by Awkwafina. The special effects were well done, and the stunts performed certainly looked believable. The fighting itself was more or less grounded and raw. Father and mother fight scene. I think throughout the MCU, this has got to be one of the best sequences I have ever seen in an MCU film to date. The choreography was absolutely beautiful. The fighting was a mix of martial arts and dancing. In many ways, the fights throughout the film were not just fights, but helped exploit character developments, and certainly in this scene, the romantic development between Wenwu and Jiang Li. Once again, the special effects were amazing. Certainly leading up to the sequence of the moving bamboo was really dramatic and tense. Fight Club building fight scene. The fighting arena scenes were, I admit, disappointing. It was cool to see Wong fighting Abomination, but it was a lot shorter than I was expecting. But when the Ten Ring Gang showed up, things really hit the fan and the fighting was really dialed up. The outside sequence at the building was gripping, filled with lots of tense but wicked fighting. There was a genuine moment where I thought Katie was gonna die, but thankfully Xinling saved the day. Xinling's fighting was very slick throughout this film. Death Dealer vs Shang-Chi. This was one of the moments I enjoyed, even if it was brief. I liked how the lighting showed this as a silhouette fight. It's a cliche stylistic trait we've seen in other franchises, but it's fun to see. The flashbacks used in this particular fight were really good and were well edited, as it coincided well with the present, as we understood why Shang-Chi would have killed the Death Dealer had his father not interfered. Entering Ta Lo. Like Wakanda, Ta Lo is yet another fictional place that is stunning to look at. The visual effects were jaw-dropping, the CGI and the creatures were pretty good and somewhat consistent. It's definitely a place you'd want to visit if it existed. The moment the gang crossed through into Ta Lo, it was like a Narnia situation, like damn, across the bamboo killing forest lies this paradise. It would have been cool if it was a wardrobe though. No. Post-credit scene. Yeah, they really left us hanging with this, but rightly so, as this is the official start to the phase 4 of the MCU in terms of the films. The Ten Rings are sending out a beacon, a message, but to who? Well, it's unclear and it's leaving many to come up with their own theories. It could be related to Kang, or it could be something linked to the Doctor Strange sequel, possibly going as far as Secret Wars. It could actually be Mephisto. Nah, I'm kidding, but it could be. It was cool that Wong, Bruce Banner and Captain Marvel appeared. It looks like this is going to be something big, but until we find out, we're just going to have to keep guessing. The good points of this film: a great cast. It's nice that we have more representation of different cultural backgrounds in the MCU, and I'm happy to see an Asian-led film. We have some notable performances from Simu Liu and Tony Leung, but also from Awkwafina, who was a great secondary character full of heart and humour. The fighting was probably the best I've seen in an MCU film. That's no joke, I think this is really the best I've seen. The choreography in places was beautiful and just perfect to watch. The martial arts was infused with a dance-like approach. It's very different and unique. The visual effects were really good. The environments we got to explore and the creatures we saw were really well done with the CGI. The storyline itself was easy to follow with a great narrative. Shang-Chi comes to terms with his abusive father and his traumatic past with the loss of his mother. He arises and fights back, proving that he is his mother's son. I think the future for Shang-Chi is pretty bright, and hopefully as time goes on, he becomes more likeable and popular to everyone. The bad points of this film. While some of the humour was decent, I don't think some jokes really landed that well, and certainly the flight attendant scene was an example of this. I understand Marvel's humour approach, but man, sometimes it needs to be toned down. Shang-Chi was explaining his past, and then you come out with, "Do you want beef or vegetarian?" Really? I kind of got lost with the final fight with the Mega Soul Sucker. There was a lot going on at once, and the CGI and explosions got in the way of it. Personally, all the fights before this were way better. So in conclusion, I would give Shang-Chi a 9.25 out of 10. I think this film is epic. The cast, the special effects, the CGI, and the fighting for the majority of the film were incredible. The humour in places didn't land, admittedly, and I personally didn't enjoy the final fight all that much, with the intense CGI creatures and visual effects in that particular scene with the Mega Soul Sucker getting very powerful. Aside from this, Shang-Chi, Simu Liu in particular, has a bright and pleasant future in the MCU, and hopefully, with the success of this film, a fan favourite, and certainly a great representative of the Asian community. I'd like to add that this film in many ways to me personally, it's like a sibling to Black Panther. In many ways, and I'd say in certain ways, it's better. I gave Black Panther a 9.5 out of 10, but I'm changing that to a 9. There are a lot of MCU films that I in the future will re-rate and rank, but that will be for a future video. So comment down below what you thought of Shang-Chi. Who were your favourite characters, what were your favourite sequences, and who do you think the Ten Rings beacon message was for? Like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!